How you guys doing? Welcome back. How you guys liking the new quality? We got a new camera we're working with. Today we're going to be going over Mark chapter 14. Yesterday we did 12 and 13. Today we're going to do just 14 because I'm going to be recording some other videos. So I got the text on screen right here. And let's get going.
After 2 days, it was the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by trickery and put him to death.
Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar of the people.
And being in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came having an alabaster flask of very costly oil of spikenard. Then she broke the flask and poured it on his head. But there were some who were indignant among themselves.
Why was this fragrant oil wasted? For it might have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor.
And they criticized her sharply.
Let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, and whenever you wish, you may do them good. But me you do not have always. She has
Jesus
done what
knew
she
his
could.
worth.
She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. Assuredly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her.
Then Judas Iscariot, one of
He's not lying. We're reading about it right now.
the 12, went to the chief priests to betray him to them. And when they heard it, they were glad and promised to give him money. So he sought how he might conveniently betray him. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover lamb, his disciples said to him,
"Where do you want us to go and prepare, that you may eat the Passover?"
And he sent out 2 of his disciples and said to them,
Go into the city, and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. Wherever he goes in, say to the master of the house, the teacher says, where is the guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? Then he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There, make ready for us.
And Jesus is like Tank giving directions in the Matrix. Telling him where to go, what to do without even seeing and knowing. I mean, he obviously knew, but without even seeing what's happening.
So his disciples went out and came into the city and found it just as he had said.
I guess Tank in the Matrix saw what's happening. He's reading the Matrix code. Bad analogy. My bad.
There, make ready for us.
So his disciples went out and came into the city and found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. In the evening he came with the 12. Now as they sat and ate, Jesus said,
Assuredly, I say to you, one of you who eats with me will betray me.
And they began to be sorrowful and to say to him one by one,
Is it I?
"Is it I?"
It is one of the 12 who dips with me in the dish. The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him.
Oh, that's interesting. It's one of you who dips with me in the dish. That means they all eat out of a communal plate, like in I think they do that in the Ethiopian culture. That's cool.
But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had never been born.
Whoa. You just said it would have been good for Judas if he had never been born. So either Jesus is scared, which we know he is, or we know, or he knows, or he's talking about Judas's fate at this point, that he's going to kill himself out of guilt, right? But I've always had a question regarding this, right? Like, Jesus knew, obviously, that Judas was going to betray him, right? And in order for Jesus to die for our sins, he had to have been betrayed. I mean, he didn't have to have been betrayed. He probably could have died in another way, but this is how it occurred, right? And he knew Judas was going to do it. So was Judas locked into that decision from the day he was born? You know what I mean? Like, did he have to? Was that his role to fulfill? What if Judas was like, you know what? This is not the right thing. I can't betray my Lord. You know what I mean? What would happen then? That's why you got to question fate. Like, the way I look at it, I try to look at it is there's no such thing as fate. Jesus and God just know what is going to happen. They just know the future. That doesn't mean you are locked into it, because you don't know the future. So you can make whatever decision you want, and they just know whatever that decision is going to be. Right? But then there's another question, right? Where it says God has a plan for you. Does the Bible even say God has a plan for you? I don't know. Or do we just say God has a plan for you? Whatever. God has a plan for you, right? If God knows the future, why does he have a plan? You don't plan if you already know the outcome, right? I think it was the president of my university. He was giving a speech and he says that God does not have a plan for you, and the point was that point. But yeah, it's just interesting stuff to think about.
And as they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them.
Take, eat. This is my body.
Then he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it.
This is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many. Assuredly, I say to you, I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God.
And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.
I bet he was the shepherd.
But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee.
Or who is I
Even
in
if
this
all
context?
are made to stumble, yet I will not be.
Assuredly, I say to you that today,
Peter sounds like James
even
Earl
this
Jones.
night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times.
But he spoke more vehemently.
If I have to die with you, I will not deny you.
And they all said likewise. Then they came to a place which was named Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples,
Sit here while I pray.
And he took Peter, James, and John with him, and he began to be troubled and deeply distressed.
My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch.
Must have been a lot of stress.
He
Knowing that
went a
you're
little
gonna die
farther
and in that
and
way.
fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him.
And he must have been
Abba.
scared.
Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will.
Then he came and found them sleeping.
Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Again he went away and prayed, and spoke the same words.
Peter must have been.
And when he returned, he found them.
Peter must have felt so bad knowing just that he fell asleep and wasn't even able to stay up. And then Jesus called him Simon. He must have felt so disappointed in himself.
Them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. Then he came the third time and said to them,
Are you still sleeping and resting? It is enough. The hour has
And
come.
because Jesus is going through so much right now, and then these guys are just fast asleep. Like, how Jesus is probably thinking, like, how can you sleep in a time like this? Coming from his perspective, right? Like, and Jesus has been there for them this whole time, and then they're just fast asleep. But they don't understand the gravity of the situation, I guess.
Come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
And immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now his betrayer had given them a signal.
Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him and lead him away safely.
As soon as he had come, immediately he went up to him
Rabbi, Rabbi.
and kissed him. Then they laid their hands on him and took him. And one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Then Jesus answered and said to them,
Have you come out as against a robber, with swords and clubs to take me? I was daily with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled.
Then they all forsook him and fled.
Jesus is still battling with the fact that this is all going down.
Now, a certain young man followed him, having a linen cloth thrown around his naked body. And the young men laid hold of him, and he left the linen cloth and fled from them naked.
Wait, what? Now a certain young man followed him, having a linen cloth thrown around his naked body. And the young man laid hold of him, and he left the linen cloth and fled from them naked. Who is the certain young man? What is this random naked guy doing? Did I miss something here? Jesus was abandoned. Then 11 disciples were gone, but a certain young man followed him. Only Mark tells us of this incident, and many believe that this young man was Mark himself. How else would he have known this story, and why else should he have included it? If it was Mark, and if the Last Supper was at his home, and it was at his home that evening, he could easily have risen from bed, pulled on a linen cloth, and followed Jesus and the disciples. Okay.
And his naked body. And the young men laid hold of him, and he left the linen cloth and fled from them naked. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes. But Peter followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. And he sat with the servants and warmed himself at the
I
fire.
don't know what I'm yawning so much.
Now the chief priests and all the council sought testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. For many bore false witness against him, but their testimonies did not agree. Then some rose up and bore false witness against him.
We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands.
But not even then did their testimony agree. And the high priest stood up in the midst and asked Jesus,
Do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you?
Why are you coming at Jesus? You guys don't even have their story straight.
but he kept silent.
Shows you how corrupt the system is. They just want what they want done, and they're just gonna get it done regardless of how.
And answered nothing. Again the high priest asked him,
Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?
I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven.
Okay, so the Messiah, okay, the Christ. What does the Christ actually mean? Does the Christ mean the Messiah? Right? And was this word, the Christ, created by Christians afterwards, or was this a Jewish term that they've been using for the Messiah all along? Because the Jews believed that the Messiah would be the Son of God. Because I thought the issue that the Jews have with Jesus as the Messiah is that he came in the form of a man, and they didn't think God was going to come down in the form of a man, right? I think Islam has that same take on it as the Jews. If I am correct, I do not know. We can look into that later, actually. That would be a cool little
Then the high priest tore his
couple
clothes.
videos to make.
What further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?
And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Then some began to spit on him.
I mean, if they were expecting the Messiah to come down as the Son of God, as in the form of man, you should have a little bit more open mind. You know, just because he doesn't look the way you thought he would look.
And to blindfold
I would
him,
think, right?
and to beat him.
Prophesy.
I mean, look at today. People are blinded so easily today by people that they look up to. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure you could easily get people to believe in Jesus or not believe in Jesus back then.
And the officers struck him with the palms of their hands.
Without even
Now as
knowing
Peter was
anything,
below in the
too.
courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came. And when she saw Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said,
You also were with Jesus of Nazareth.
I neither know nor understand what you are saying.
And he went out on the
Peter.
porch, and a rooster crowed. And the servant girl saw him again, and began to say to those who stood by.
This is one of them.
But he denied it again. And a little later, those who stood by said to Peter again,
Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean and your speech shows it.
Then he began to curse and
Hey, what's
swear.
that Galilean accent?
I do not know this
I wanna
man
know.
of whom you speak.
A second time, the rooster crowed. Then Peter called to mind the word that Jesus had said to him.
Before the rooster
on,
crows
Peter.
twice, you will deny me 3 times.
And when he thought about it, he wept.
Oh, that's sad, man. That's sad. Hey, let's look at what Christ means, the actual meaning of Christ. meaning of Christ. Christ comes from Christos, a Greek word that means the anointed one or the chosen one. But it also speaks of Jesus as the Christ, the anointed one, the Messiah. Did the Jews use the word Christ? Is Christ Jewish? Okay, let's make this bigger. Is Jesus Christ a Jewish name? The most important ancient translation of the Torah is the translation of the 70, known as the Septuagint or LXX. I know that's 10 in Roman numerals, right? So that would be 20. I don't know what L is. Which was originally produced by 70 Jewish translators for Greek-speaking Jews in Egypt during the 3rd and 2nd century BC. And we just read that Christ comes from Christos, which is Greek, right? So they're okay, all right. Well, let's continue. To the translation of the 70, the title 70 refers to the tradition that the translation was the work of 70 separate Jewish translators. Well, that's good. All right. Okay. Here we go. Although the Septuagint is useful for doing certain types of biblical research, it is a translation of the classical Hebrew text, and therefore it should not be given linguistic priority over the original Hebrew. I wish I knew Hebrew, man. That would have been so good. That would be so cool, being able to study the original texts to get the complete meaning and how it was intended. All the words of the phrases of speech and like the symbolism and any underlying meanings, I'll know they're accurate, right? That being said, the Septuagint provides insight about the usage of Hebraic concepts as translated into the Greek for Jews of the time. Okay, well, that's good. And hopefully they did this when they translated it to English as well. For example, consider the word Christ. This comes from Christos, the Greek equivalent of the Hebrew term Messiah. Both words literally mean anointed one. If you were to perform a word search in the Septuagint for the word Christos and Christian, the nominative and accusative singular of Christos, Christ, retrospectively, there are other references in the genitive case as the participles, but these are sufficient. You will find the following references. Okay. Well, yeah, that's what we were looking for. That's cool. So Christ just means the Messiah, and it was a translation from the Hebrew to the Greek. Okay. So when they were saying, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" And it's the same thing. Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed? All right. Well, that was cool. We're getting close to completing Mark, if you guys believe it or not. We just finished chapter 14. Tomorrow, we're going to do 15 and 16, and then we're done. We're done with Mark. And I'm excited for this next step. We're going to jump back into Genesis. I love learning about the foundations of stuff. Getting that foundational knowledge is cool. I always say I like origin stories, and Genesis is our origin story. So that's going to be really cool. I look forward to that, and I hope you guys do too. And continue to join me as we move on to our next book. Well, after we finish Mark, tomorrow is our last day of Mark. After we finish that, we jump to Genesis, and We head straight through the entire Bible from there. Obviously, we'll skip Mark because we just read Mark, right? But I just wanted to read Mark to get that foundation in Jesus Christ, to get the right mindset, right? What did we learn? How Jesus looked at things? Big picture thinking. He looked at things from the top down. He didn't focus on the little petty things, right? He focused on the big picture, right? Being a good person. That's what's important, right? And once you're a good person, you will automatically follow God's will, right? It's not like, okay, here's the checklist that I need to follow. Boom, 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 boom. I finished the checklist. But if you're not good in your heart, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter, all right? So be a good person. That's what Jesus is saying. All right. That's it for today. I will see you guys tomorrow for Mark 15 and 16. And then Monday, boom, we start Genesis. All right? See you guys later. Hope you have a nice day. Adios.